Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas. Stop me if you've heard this before. We begin tonight with what could be a major breakthrough in the war with Iran. White House sources tell News Nation negotiators in Washington and Tehran have finally reached an agreement to extend the ceasefire, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and begin negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. But that would be the easy part. Iran still hasn't commented on this potential breakthrough, and it still needs final approval from President Trump. The Treasury Secretary said today that's not coming without serious concessions from Iran.
President Trump has made it very clear, he talked about it at the cabinet meeting, that he has several red lines. And Iran has to turn over their highly enriched uranium. They cannot pursue a nuclear weapon. And the Strait of Hormuz, back to your question on energy, has to free transit. Navigation of the seas has to be free and open as it was before.
The deal on the table will reportedly get that Strait of Hormuz open back to where it was before the war started. No tolls, no terrorism, and no mines. In exchange, the U.S. will lift its punishing blockade of Iranian ports. The U.S. will also reportedly negotiate sanctions relief and the release of billions of dollars in frozen Iranian funds.
Yeah, so basically it's the JCPOA 2.0. But this is going to be the main criticism if this happens. Like, so you're telling me that Donald Trump is going to get the, well, honestly, he's going to get the uranium, get the Strait open and all this good stuff. But here's the problem. He had to get into a whole war to do so. He had to lose billions of dollars in spending on this war. He had to lose 13 American lives, and of course respect on the global stage. And Barack Obama got this all done through diplomacy without embarrassing the United States whatsoever. Like, you see the problem here in getting into another JCPOA. This is why Trump was trying to get complete surrender, because I'm gonna be real with you, anything less is going to be seen as weak.
Just 24 hours.
But sadly, he put himself in this corner, so can't really feel bad for the man.
Hours ago, President Trump said Iran will only get its money if it behaves.
When they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money. But right now, we're not doing that.
Now, news of this deal couldn't come at a more precarious moment. Just hours before reports of this breakthrough emerged, Iran fired a ballistic missile toward an American base in Kuwait. Kuwaiti forces intercepted it. Iran also launched several attack drones at a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz. And it all happened just hours after the U.S. conducted strikes on military targets in southern Iran. All right, let's kick off our coverage right now.
And yeah, that was pretty much a retaliation from the preventive strikes that the U.S. carried out on the boats in the boats in the Strait of Hormuz, that Iranian boats in the Strait of Hormuz, and of course the missile launch sites on Iranian's coastlines. And then of course they attacked a port city or a military site in a port city. And Iran's response was, all right, well, I guess we're just going to start firing into the UAE. And they was able to intercept most of them. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, as you see, the ceasefire was breaking down, and it does seem like there was a rush to low-key get this peace deal pushed to the table before any more kinetic strikes resumed. Now, I'm not really sure if that's the case. You never really know, because every time we're in negotiation with Iran, we always tend to do some type of crazy strike on them. But hopefully we've learned our lesson from bad faith diplomacy, because it's what got us in this situation now. But all right. Oh, guys, I'm about to go ahead and get off X real quick. So if you're on X, if you're watching on X, go ahead and go to my main page. You'll be able to see the YouTube link, and you guys can go over and transfer from X to YouTube. But I am about to close the X stream.
Now with News Nation's Robert Sherman, who's live for us in Doha, Qatar. Robert, we've got this tentative deal, but wow, is tentative the key word here?
And that's not just the word that U.S. officials are using, but now this is also the sentiment coming from the regional diplomats that we've been speaking with as well, who say that there is a deal that is on the table, and they emphasize at this point it really comes down to whether the president of the United States gives it a green light or a red light. What it would set up would be 60 days of diplomacy. It would, in the short term, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But these talks would focus around some of these big sticking points that are still sticking here tonight, whether it's Iran's nuclear ambitions, what becomes of the enriched uranium.
Oh yeah, one more warning. The 14 of you guys on X, make sure to move on over to YouTube. I'm about to close X right now. But then again, I don't know. You never know. X is mostly bots that be watching your lives on X. Elon, you need to fix that. Yeah, I got your botted up social media platform. But all right, though. Enough on X. There we go.
Uranium that they're currently in possession of, or of course, the Strait of Hormuz. Who controls it in the long run, or does nobody control it? Both Iran and the United States have very different views at this hour as to exactly what it should look like. And the value of that key waterway, once again, evidence here this evening after we saw over the last 24 hours, a second time this week in which the U.S. carried out self-defense strikes, this go around in the port city of Bandar Abbas, in which 5 Iranian drones were shot down. A launch site was eliminated as well by Central Command, which took out a 6th before it reached the air. And as a result, Iran fired a missile at a U.S. base in Kuwait that was intercepted. Nevertheless, Vice President J.D. Vance emphasizing, despite all the
correction, it was cool. It was Kuwait, not the UAE. Okay. The UAE is who they fired on earlier on. But okay, so pretty much they fired into Kuwait. They was able to stop all the missiles. But the only reason they fired into Kuwait is because of the U.S. preventative strike into their port city in their boats. So, and then here's the funny part. They were still trying to say that we were under a ceasefire. That was hilarious.
That exists here. The ceasefire is not folding. Here's what he said.
Sometimes these things have little flare-ups. I think our approach has been to enforce the ceasefire, to defend ourselves when fired upon. The president's been very clear that if we're fired upon, we're going to fire back. But if you compare the conflict now to where it was 5-6 weeks ago, I think the president's ceasefire is very much holding.
So whether it's in the U.S. or here in the Middle East, people are looking ahead towards diplomacy, and some key talks are expected to take place tomorrow. The lead mediator, Pakistan, their foreign minister's office says that their foreign minister, their top diplomat, will be in Washington to meet with Secretary of State Marco Rubio to talk about the current state of play here in the Middle East and how all of this is playing out as people around the globe wait to see what the president's call is on all this. Elizabeth?
All right, Robert Sherman, live from Qatar. Thank you so much. Let's get reaction to all this from John Bolton. He's the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and President Trump's former national security advisor. Ambassador, great to have you back. So what do you make?
Oh, guys, make sure to smash that like button, guys. If you're either watching on Rumble or YouTube, make sure you smash that like button. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's get right into it with John Bolton. Oh, my goodness. All right, prepare yourself, guys. Neocon alert.
Make of this potential deal, this 60-day memo of understanding, the Strait would reopen, U.S. would lift its blockade on Iranian ports, U.S. would lift sanctions to allow Iran to sell its oil, and Iran would commit not to pursue a nuclear weapon.
Well, I think it's a big defeat for the United States. The reason Iran is willing to discuss anything is the military force of the United States. And under this deal for 60 days, that will be suspended. What are all the forces in the region that we have going to do for 60 days? Just kind of hang around? What Iran is counting on is that as this process drags out, as all the key issues are kicked down the road, that our forces will begin to melt away and that they will be able to sell oil to replenish their assets, rebuild their military program, and take away the biggest threat to the regime that we have, which is the economic threat. I think this is a mistake. I think it is being undertaken not because of any strategic analysis of the
I'm sorry, but bro, it's funny how it says undertaken with no strategic analysis. I'm sorry, but this entire war was undertaken with no strategic analysis. Because let's be real, if it was, we wouldn't let them close the Strait of Hormuz so effectively. We wouldn't be here in a stalemate when it comes to strikes, and they wouldn't still be here with most of their military capability. So I'm sorry, but yeah, the best thing to do right now is one, take off some sanctions if we actually want to get that enriched uranium and just get up out of there. Like, if this is about the uranium and that's the most important thing and that's the biggest threat to the United States, let's take care of that and remove ourselves. But guys like John Bolton, well, they just want regime change. And I think a lot of people, if you're being sensible about this, you understand that regime change is not possible right now. It's just not, especially after we attack them. So the best thing we can do is get their enriched uranium under control, by sadly sanction relief. We're just gonna have to be okay with that. Bolton's gonna be mad, but hey, man, look, he was gonna be mad with anything less than regime change.
To the United States, it's because of the administration's fear of high gasoline prices at the pump in the United States. That is what is driving us.
Well, you're against the U.S. even negotiating with Iran to get a peace deal. Why shouldn't we negotiate? Why do you think war is the only option?
I didn't say war is the only option. If you think the Iranians are going to live up to almost anything in this deal.
But they did live up to the JCPOA. You're the one who got them out. You're the one who convinced Trump to pull us out the JCPOA, even though Iran was abiding by it. They were staying below that 3.67% enrichment. They were keeping their stockpiles low, and they were allowing the inspectors in. The problem is that wasn't good enough for Israel, and you can't go to war with Iran when you don't have the excuse of, oh, but they're nuclear weapons. So you pulled us out the deal that Iran was abiding by. Then we invoked the sanctions back on them, took out Qasem Soleimani, made the RGC a terrorist group. All these acts of aggressions, that's what actually pushed Iran towards the 60% enrichment we're dealing with today. And isn't it just funny about how all the problems that we have with Iran, we're kind of the creators of? Like, well, I don't know, the whole regime is our fault because we wanted to go ahead and install the Shah that brought a revolution upon himself. Like, isn't that kind of crazy how that's our fault? Oh, anybody remembers Atoms for Peace, where the whole reason why they even have a nuclear reactor and they're able to enrich uranium is because we gave it to them? I mean, isn't that just funny how all of the problems in Iran that we deal with today is of our own making?
Including a serious discussion of eliminating their nuclear program, then there's really not much to say about it. I think this counts on the short attention span of the United States, and it will allow Iran to regroup during the 60-day period. It will dig out more of the buried missiles, missile launchers, drones, and other facilities. It will give them 60 more days to rebuild their drone and missile production facilities, 60 more days to work on their nuclear weapons program, 60 more days to rebuild.
They have no nuclear weapons program. That's the funniest part about it. It's like, yeah, they enrich uranium to 60%, but like I said, that was only as a hedge because of our constant acts of aggressions towards them. And I promise you, if we'd have stayed in the JCPOA, they'd have still been at that 3.6%. And then we'd have been able to work out a deal if we'd have let it expire. And I know it's kind of funny how some people actually think it's a reasonable argument to say, well, it was 15 years. They should have stayed in it. Yeah, a deal that we pulled out of, that we invoked the sanctions back on them, and they were just supposed to stay in that deal. Please tell me how that makes logical. Please tell me how that makes logical sense. Like, please. Like, no, it only makes sense to the neocons who want to have a reason to push us into war with Iran.
Terrorist network, 60 more days to repress their own people. I think it's a significant setback.
Iran is demanding, as you know, that $12 billion in frozen funds be returned as part of any peace deal in exchange for allowing tankers through the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh,
that's flat out extortion.
Yes,
Pay us and we'll reopen the strait.
Well, you're not really pay. It's pretty much give us the money that you pretty much took from us through sanctions and we'll reopen the strait. And I mean, hey, if that's what we got to do, then that's what we got to do. Sadly, we could have got this done without them closing the strait, without causing disruption in the global trade or the global supply. But guess what? Apparently, Trump didn't want to follow his advisors from the CIA. He wanted to listen to the Mossad. He wanted to listen to Bibi. And now we're here having to give Iran, or might actually have to give Iran, sanction relief just for them to open the strait. Not even to get their enriched uranium, just to open the goddamn strait. Yeah, that's an L.
You're in favor of agreeing to it, it seems, since you think the only alternative to
I'm not
agreeing to it is war.
I'm not in favor of anything. I'm asking you what you think the president should do.
I think he should end the ceasefire and return to hostilities. The regime in Iran was badly weakened by the U.S. and Israeli attacks,
this guy's retarded,
but not yet defeated.
So how you going to sit there and say that, oh, no, I'm not pushing for war, but then say, no, F the peace deal. We need to go back to kinetic strikes. No, we need to go right back to war. And achieve what, Bolton? Achieve what? Because I'm be real with you. We went to war with these guys, and I'm be real with you. We don't have the escalation dominance. all they're going to do is start destroying energy infrastructure throughout the Middle East, and that's only going to make gas prices skyrocket even higher. I mean, they could start cutting internet cables and shut off internet for the entire region. They could start destroying water desalination centers and send everybody into a fucking a drought/famine. So please tell me, like, what does going back to a war with Iran honestly get us? Because not going to get us any leverage. I'll tell you that right now. And you're an idiot if you think it does.
And what it's doing now is climbing out of the grave that we were digging for it and rebuilding itself. And it will come back to re-engage in all of the activities, starting with the nuclear program, continuing with their terrorist.
You know, it's so funny that he says that. So, you know, from 2021, you know, we had Biden in there with no aggressions towards Iran whatsoever. And during that time, Iran was at 60% enrichment, you know, since 2021. And because we have not acted aggressively towards them, they stayed at that. Well, till now, they've been at that 60% enrichment. So you can't sit here and fearmonger saying, oh, they're going to go right back to building nuclear weapons. I mean, bro, they had all under Biden to build a nuclear weapon and they didn't. And if you're saying that's their main objective, then I'm be real with you. They had all the opportunity in the world under Biden and they did not commit to it. So I guess it kind of goes to show that I guess the Ayatollah wasn't lying about that whole fatwa, the religious law saying that it's a sin to make a nuclear weapon. They were never going towards one. So you sitting here trying to fearmonger saying, oh, well, if we leave them alone, they'll just make a nuke. No, if we keep fucking with them, they'll make a nuke. But all right. Apparently he don't get that. But all right, guys, make sure to like the video, guys. I know we got about 6 of y'all on Rumble. Go ahead and like that video and a couple of y'all on YouTube. Make sure to like the video as well.
Proxy network and the repression of the Iranian people that we had set back. And the reason we're doing this is because of the effective stoppage of the export of oil from the Gulf, which we could alleviate if we were to use military force to open the Gulf Arab side to get that production out while keeping the blockade against Iran to continue economically squeezing them. But we're going to give that up too.
So when you say we should go back to hostilities, isn't that another way of saying it's war? It's the war in Iran. But you're saying we should use our military to reopen the strait to commercial oil traffic while still maintaining our blockade on the Iranian ports.
Not possible.
Right. And in 60 days.
That is not, bro, this guy's delusional. That is not possible, bro. I mean, first off, so we're going to try to military remove Iran off the strait, which we've been trying to do, like with Operation Epic Fury. That's what we've been trying to do. But you think that we're going to remove them off and they're not going to start destroying our, you know, the energy infrastructure of our allies? You think we're going to be able to defend them off while they're trying to, you know, keep control of the strait, and we're going to be able to defend our assets and the assets of our allies in the region when Iran proved that we can't with Operation Epic Fury? Like, are you serious, dude? Like, did you not learn what just happened in the past, I don't know, 4 months? How they kind of just proved to us that, yeah, getting into it with them is only going to make it worse. Trying to escalate things past the strait, be honest with you, is only going to lead to the entire Middle East going into drought and famine. So, I mean, we could possibly remove them off the strait, and be honest with you, most likely. But the retaliation from that, the blowback, is something that we're not ready to deal with. And John Bolton, he obviously just don't give a fuck. He really don't.
Days, if this agreement goes through and Iran says, you know, we're not happy, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz again, what does the U.S. do then?
Have we crossed some sort of Rubicon here where Iran closes the strait and disrupts the world's oil market whenever it doesn't think it's getting what it's wanting?
I think that's where we're headed. That's why the only way to restore deterrence.
Here's the problem, though. It wasn't like that before this war. The war that you championed, that you were cheerleading on, John Bolton, it wasn't like that before. So it's kind of crazy how your remedy for this is more war, the same thing that got us this exact result. Like, isn't that kind of retarded? Like, you want to do more of what got us this terrible result in the strait? Like, I don't know. Don't you just want to take a hint and be like, I don't know. I feel like we escalate this and we'll keep going down this path of bad decision making, then it could only get worse. Like, bro, next thing you know, like I said, it starts shutting off cables, destroying water desalination centers, energy infrastructure in the region. Then oil is going to be then gas is going to be like at $10 a gallon. Then what are you going to tell us? Oh, we need to nuke them now? Oh, my goodness.
against Iran or any other regime in the region is to say, if somebody tries to close the Strait of Hormuz, to violate the fundamental principle of freedom of the seas, we will open it again. And if that were made clear, then I don't think there'd be nearly as much danger that Iran or anybody else would try and close the strait in the future. I think they believe we've got a short attention span. We're obsessed by the November elections. And as time draws closer to the elections, after 60 days, is Trump more likely to use force then than it is now? I think the chances of any return to force to achieve what may or may not have been Trump's objectives in starting the use of force to begin with diminish the closer we get to the elections.
He says he doesn't care about the midterms.
That's all he cares about. This is about price at the pump of gasoline. And he thinks
I'm weak. So, guys, if it was John Bolton, he says, bro, I wouldn't even be looking at the price of gas. I'd just be bombing the hell out of Iran right now. It's just like, what? John Bolton, bro, if he was our president, I promise you gas would be at $10 a gallon, and he'd be telling you, but Iran. Like, yo. And this used to be the national security advisor. Like, remember that.
If he can get the Strait of Hormuz open, global price of petroleum will fall, price at the pump here will fall, inflation will fall, and election chances will look better in November. That's exactly what it's about.
Well, Ambassador John Bolton, I will say there are increased.
If you escalate this, then I'm gonna be real with you. None of that's gonna fall. Everything's only going to get worse, and the midterms are going to look really bleak for Republicans. But they don't want to hear that. They just want you to cheerlead for Iran. Not cheerlead for Iran, but cheerlead for the Iran war. Keep promoting war. Hopefully it's going to work out for us, even though it hasn't worked out for us at all in the Middle East. But don't worry, guys. This time will work because it's Trump.
Increasingly, a number of vocal Republicans who are echoing a lot of what you're saying, that we may be missing, who knows, an important opportunity here. We shall see. Ambassador, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Meanwhile, Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth, while all this is going on, is in Singapore representing the United States at the region's biggest defense summit of the year. And if there's another region of the world that...
But all right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to the next video here. Let's see here. Just then, at least 5 Americans reportedly hurt in recent Iranian attacks. All right, let's go ahead and